Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Romano. The question is, does size really matter in a hedge fund? This first quarter of 2022 is probably the worst quarter I've ever seen. Unfortunately, we're waiting for a stock market collapse and it hasn't happened yet. But as interest rates keep going up, a lot of changes happen. I'm going to go over each fund that I have selected for my portfolio, and I'm going to tell you the returns. Well, the question is, who am I? I'm Dr. Hedge Fund on YouTube for a reason. I have a PhD in hedge fund selection, and all of my research is on hedge fund selection, and that's risk management, basically. So everything that has to do with trading, how to manage your risk, etc. And so over the past 7 years, I have been following a certain amount of hedge funds based on my strategy and what my research has concluded from my PhD. The first fund did 0.062, the second fund 45.47, the third fund is negative 30%, the next fund did 2.09, the next fund did 15%, the next one did 39%, the next did 16.57%, the next one did 38%, and then the next one did 11.33%. And I do follow an extra two that I take seriously. And those both did pretty much a negative 4% and 2%, actually 2.78%. Now, 2021 wasn't the best year. However, in 2020, the returns were phenomenal. And so the following year, when you have a really good year like 2020, I should say 2020 wasn't exactly the best year, but it was a smooth year because the economy was still in really good shape over the past 4 years. And of course, just because you have, a pandemic that comes about and the stock market takes a dive, it just went right back up. Now, 2021, of course, we were not going to have a very good year. It was kind of like a dead year it was a changing year. So whenever you have a really good year or the stock market does really well like 2020, then the following year is not going to do so well. And that's when portfolio managers, the big companies, they start to reevaluate their assets and their investments, etc. And so the following year, which is 2022, that's this first quarter, you're going to notice a lot of choppiness in the markets, and it's very difficult to trade. Now, of course, there's certain traders that are able to do really well in those markets. They're able to trade in a zone or basically trade in a market that's moving sideways. Well, kind of in a way, but the volatility is pretty bad. I should have made this video in January of 2022, but I decided not to do it because I was missing a couple of things. So as you could see, those returns were pretty decent. You only really had one fund that was negative, and unfortunately, when I reviewed this fund, I couldn't understand why it did so poorly, but it did pretty poorly at 30% negative. For 2021. And when you look at the returns over 10 years, because the fund has been around for quite some time, the fund always seems to do pretty mediocre, but on times that the markets aren't doing so well, they normally do really well. So I was really shocked that that fund did not so well. And of course, all the other funds did pretty decent in a bad market, kind of a stagnant market. Now, of course, it's now the middle of April, so I've updated the first quarter returns. And I'm going to tell you something. So right before the returns look like what it did in the first quarter, most of them are actually negative except two. So that's really bad. Because if 10 of these funds, 12 of these, or actually 10 of these funds aren't doing so well their first quarter, then you have to say to yourself, are we going to have another stock market collapse? Or kind of one day where the stock market just drops? Because if you remember, 2021, the first quarter was pretty bad, but then by the end of the year, it actually did phenomenal. So I feel like that in 2022, it's going to be another year like that. Whenever there's a war, certain companies actually benefit from that. Now that it's an official war that's happening, it's not just a police action, you could guarantee you steel companies are going to be doing really well. Any type of metals, military weapons, helicopter companies, you name it, they all need metal, aluminum, titanium, steel in certain capacities. I guarantee you what's happening now is that the markets are reevaluating themselves because they have to deal with higher interest rates. And then the outcome is that they're changing their portfolio. The interesting thing is that Warren Buffett has already done this, I think like 2-3 years ago. Warren Buffett somehow knew to buy up steel companies, metals, etc. And what was really interesting is that he went and bought up a lot of oil companies when the prices of oil was really cheap. So he knew that oil was not going to go anywhere and it was going to continue to be around. That was an indicator that he knew something. Because logically, if we're supposed to go green within like 5 to 10 years, which it's not going to happen, unfortunately, because you need a lot of rare earth materials, you need a lot of stuff for that. And it should take between 20 and 35 years for it to really all happen, because we have to update our grid. Again, that's metal, you need copper for those wires. Right now, we're entering a great new era for the next 20 years. And if you're smart, you'll focus on any type of metal. Now, of course, we have gold prices spiking. Okay, yeah, it's really high. But the gold prices are spiking because investors are afraid of what the future holds for our stock market. The stock market collapses right after gold prices spike. Then finally, the stock market collapses. So those people who trade on a decade of information, they're re-evaluating their portfolios for the long haul. Not everyone trades like a day trader or a penny trader or whatever you want to call it. I only place trades when I know to enter, and that could be over months it takes for me to see this. For example, I knew that in January of 2022, I knew that the market was going to tank because I already seen the last third quarter of the year, the results from that. And I knew it was going to take some time for it to happen. I also looked at the commodities market, and something was changing in the commodities market. Well, I don't know what's the future, but because I'm not psychic, but I could look at the charts and kind of gauge what's going to happen. So I want to thank you so much for watching. Please do thumbs up if you like my videos, and please remember to send me a message to the live chat. And also, please share this video with at least 5 people you know. I would really like to get out there, and if you could, by subscribing to my video, it really all helps. I want to thank you so much for watching.